So, regarding Gavin Newsom's potential presidential run, I can see why some liberals support him, right? He's fighting back hard against the Republican Party right now, or at least against Trump, right? He is, he's swinging hard. Um, and what people need right now, what they want, is a strong leader who's actually going to do something about the crisis we're in, instead of just talk, instead of just tell us to take higher ground, right? He's he's stepping up as what appears to be a champion of the Democratic Party, and people are gravitating to that because they need it. I fully get that. The problem is when it comes to his views on certain social issues, he doesn't appear to be much different than any other politician. And I know that a lot of leftists are being accused of puritanical beliefs, expecting someone to be absolutely perfect. Some maybe some are, but in reality, that's just not the case. Okay, one issue is the housing crisis. A while back, Gavin Newsom said that he was going to get to the bottom of the homeless crisis, right? And it was a curious statement because, saying that you're going to try to figure out what's causing something implies that you don't know. But we do know what's causing the homeless crisis. Housing is becoming more and more, it's becoming less and less accessible to more and more people. We still have the working poor and the working homeless, people who work 8 hours a day, 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week, and they still can't afford a cheap apartment because the prices are so high. Okay, that's still happening. Now we have people who can afford housing, but they can't find a place to live because they don't qualify to rent anywhere because the requirements are getting so high. You have to make 2.5 to 3 times the monthly income of the rent. So whatever the rent is, you need 2.5 to 3 times more than that each month. So plenty of people have enough for rent, but they don't have 3 times the amount of the rent each month. So they don't qualify to rent there. Landlords do that. Management buildings do that because they know that every year they increase the rent a lot. So they want to make sure that people can pay when they increase the rent. There's that. Then there's the credit score. You need a really high credit score to be able to rent an apartment. If you don't have that, they don't let you rent. And then you need at least 2 years rental history. If you don't have that, they quite often don't let you rent. And if you don't have a cosigner, well, there's nothing you can do. You're not going to get an apartment. So all of this is why we're seeing more and more homeless people. Okay, we know what's causing the homelessness crisis, and he doesn't appear as if he's going to do anything about it. Right? He's trying to get them off the streets, push them into whatever shelters or now what's going to happen? Are they going to be taken to Trump's encampments, institutionalized? Getting them off the streets, out of sight, out of mind, does not solve the homelessness problem. They're still homeless. It doesn't solve the housing problem, and it doesn't appear that he's going to. Another thing is his pandering to conservative politicians. Saying that you respect the beliefs of someone who believes that women shouldn't have the right to vote, that women should submit to their husbands, that reproductive health care, he doesn't believe women should have reproductive health care. Not Gavin Newsom, but conservatives that he's pandering to, right? And now with the whole, there was recently a new mass shooting, unfortunately, and it was a horrible tragedy. It was absolutely horrible. A Catholic school was shot up, and 2 children died, others were injured. Absolutely horrific. Unfortunately, it turns out that the shooter this time was transgender. And so now the conservatives have jumped on that. It doesn't matter to them that so far the majority of mass shooters have been white, Christian, conservative, straight men who don't identify as transgender. They don't care about that. They're not trying to take rights away from Christians, because the majority of shooters up until now have claimed to be Christian and conservative. But now that it's a transgender person who committed the shooting, they're digging into the trans population. They're calling the trans population a threat. They're calling them mentally ill. They're deeming them dangerous during a time when people are being dragged off to camps, literally the concentration camps. They're threatening the mentally ill with institutionalization. They consider you dangerous. They can just pick you up and take you away. You don't have to prove that you're not anymore. There's no due process anymore. Hispanic people are being picked up and taken off the streets. Even they said, oh, the Trump administration said, oh, they're only going to take illegal immigrants, but that was a lie. They're taking legal citizens too. They're accusing them of things. They're not giving them due process or a chance to defend themselves, and they're taking them to the camps. Trans people are going to be next. So listen, we have to, I'm going to lose my patience. We have to clear something up right now, because we're goddamn dying here, and those who aren't currently dying are waiting to die. We know that there's no politician that's going to help targeted individuals. No, Kamala Harris would not have helped us as targeted individuals. She would not have stopped the targeting. But what we wouldn't be facing right now is the prospect of being sent to institutions and concentration camps or fuck knows what, prisons. In large numbers for going against the regime. They want to send the mentally ill away. When targets complain about what's happening to them, and they speak up about what's happening to them, they're called mentally ill. Are you starting to understand this now? No, there is no politician that's going to help targeted individuals. There is no politician. Gavin Newsom isn't going to, for sure as fuck. He's a typical politician. Kamala Harris would not have helped us either. But at the very least, we would not be on the verge of being sent to concentration camps. Being targeted is a horrific thing to go through, no matter who's running the show. But under the Republican Party, it has become a nightmare beyond comprehension, and the threat is worse now than it has ever been. Not to mention the women and girls who now are going to be tied to their rapists for life, forced to bear their offspring, in a situation where maternal health care is being taken away and women and girls are dying as a result. And if they survive, guess what? Father's rights, and the rapist gets at least shared custody. These victims, these female victims of targeting will never be able to get away now. Never. I'm losing my goddamn patience. No, there is no politician on the right or the left who is going to help us as targeted individuals. It's going to be horrible no matter who is in office. But there are levels of bad. It would have been horrible if a Democrat had won too. But under the Republicans, it's terror. It's a nightmare. It is a hellscape. I understand the liberals who are angry with leftists because leftists seem to be rejecting Gavin Newsom now the way they did Kamala Harris before. But see, leftists are also thinking about the other issues, right? What do we do with a president who doesn't give a damn about the homeless crisis, who's just getting them off the streets? Everybody knows what's causing homelessness. The system is, and we've spoken about this so many times, so many people have spoken about this. You can't be a politician and not know what's causing it. So how is he gonna say he's gonna find out what's causing it? What that tells me is that he's not going to do anything about the real issues that are causing the homeless crisis. He's just going to push them off the streets. Out of sight, out of mind. Right? He's pandering to conservatives. I understand why he's doing it. He needs their support. But they're a threat to our lives. Imagine if there was like an anti-Semite or something, like David Duke, like really anti-Semitic, horrible person. And someone pandered to him and said that they can understand his viewpoints. and that they have a lot of respect for his viewpoints. It would be that person would never get into office. But if someone has that level of bigotry against other people, against women, against trans people, against minorities, they can fucking become president. And now we have a Democratic politician saying he respects their viewpoints, their religion, whatever. There are reasons that leftists don't support Gavin Newsom. It's not just that they're being puritanical. And I understand liberals, right? We're suffering so badly under the conservatives, under the Republicans. We just want the parties to change. We need someone to stop them. I get that. But what about the other issues that Gavin Newsom is not going to help with? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to give you a but what about it. Can we all please try to understand where someone else is coming from and why certain people are so stuck in their ways? Can we just try? It's getting bad now. They're going to start doing to trans people what they've been doing to Hispanic people. They're going to start dragging trans people off the streets. They're going to take their rights away, and it's going to set the precedent for the rest of the population, because once they do it to one group, they can justify doing it to other groups using the same excuses. Yeah, don't tell me Kamala would have been worse when I or someone else could be dragged off to a fucking death camp under Trump. Don't goddamn tell me, well, she wouldn't have been any better. If I'm not being dragged off to a death camp and I'm not at risk of that, she would have been better. Perfect? No. She's not going to help us. But there wouldn't be the death camps. And I get it, with leftists too. Well, settling for not as bad is still bad. I know that. Okay. And so this is why I'm not on either side anymore. I mean, you can't go conservative. They're psychopaths, right? The Republicans are psychopaths. But when it comes to liberals and leftists, I can't take either side because neither is listening to the other. Neither is putting themselves in the shoes of the other. This is exhausting. And it gets more and more dangerous by the day. And now they're sending not just the National Guard, but military to police Chicago. They're turning the military on the people. That's what the Republicans are doing. Don't tell me she would have been worse. Would she have helped us? No. No, she wouldn't. None of them will. But she wouldn't have been worse.